So if I were able to empower women to understand that, yes, we do have challenges, and yes, some of us have more challenges than others, but your mind is your greatest challenge. If you can overcome fear, and if you can believe in yourself, the sky is the limit for you. I very much believe that. And if I'm able to empower women to be able to think like that and pursue their dreams, then I hope that I've been able to do a good thing.
Nigerian businesswoman Reni Folawiyo is the founder of Alara, a concept store in the heart of Victoria Island, Lagos, that seeks to redefine luxury fashion for Nigerians. Meaning wondrous performer in Yoruba, Alara is rapidly becoming a fashion destination for Nigerians and Westerners alike. With its unique mix of fashion, art and design, Alara has been likened to famous concept stores all over the world. But for Folawiyo, this passion for excellence is just the very beginning.
I was born in London. My parents were in school. My dad was studying to be a lawyer, and my mum was doing a degree in business administration. We came back to Nigeria when I was 3, and my dad was an academic. He was a lecturer at the University of Lagos in law, and so I was a campus baby. We moved from there to Ibadan, where my dad was a commissioner, and lived there for the next 10 years. So I grew up in quite an academic home, and a very expressive home. My mum was into the arts, and we moved around a lot within Nigeria, so I know a lot about Nigeria. When we were younger, my dad's job in Ibadan when he was commissioner took us to different parts of Western State. I finally came back to Lagos. My dad went back to Unilag. And so I'm a bit of a mixture of the child of an academic and the child of a creative.
Right, and I mean, being a child of an academic and creative, how did that impact the choice of career that you chose to go into?
Well, my dad was a lawyer.
Okay.
So that kind of impacted what I did because I am a lawyer.
Right.
I studied law and I did law school, and I worked for him for 10 years as a lawyer, commercial lawyer.
How did you find that working with your dad so close?
My dad's great. My dad was great.
Okay.
He is a liberal, liberal-minded man, very religious, but also very liberal. So it was fun to work with him, and I learned a lot. I learned a lot about life, a lot about law, and a lot about, relationships with people. But I had a thirst for doing something creative. And so I transitioned from being a lawyer to being a creative person.
Right.
So creative person just means I kind of wanted to be involved in the arts, one way or the other. And that's how my career as a creative person, or I don't know what to call myself now, started.
They say a picture is worth 1,000 words, and for a luxury retailer, it can sell millions in merchandise. That's why Alara had to look the part. The planning process was meticulous, and Folawiyo enlisted the help of world-class visionaries to create a platform for not only the international super brands, but also to celebrate the success of homegrown brands in Nigeria and the continent. Do you find that, was there ever a time that you wanted to maybe be an artist yourself, or create sculptures or anything in that shape or form, or was it really just to create a platform for artists?
I don't know. I think it's a bit of a jumble. It's a bit jumbled. My sort of journey was a bit jumbled. As I said, I transitioned from being a lawyer. I had a lot of friends who were artists. So what we started with was having a group of us have something of a studio at the weekends in my house. So we had young sculptors, young painters, young designers, anybody that could make things.
Right.
So we had a platform, we had a studio in my house. We'd create things, and we did that for a while. We'll create, then we'll have an exhibition, and then create and have an exhibition. So the creative process for me at the time, having been trained in creating anything, I kind of liked the idea of other people sort of following my own direction. After I did that, I then decided that I felt very strongly about fashion, and I sort of started a fashion design
label.
Yes.
Right.
And I did that for a few years. From then, I moved to production of furniture.
Right.
Yeah, so it's weird.
There's a lot going on.
Yeah, I think ever since I had the group where we sort of had the studio, I had a little bit of knowledge of everything. And when we started creating all these things, people used to ask, oh, you've created this beautiful sculpture. So what we'll do is that the sculptors, we will work with the sculptures, we'll create objects that you can use at home. We'll make it out of like a solid log of wood. We'll just create with anything, just create something that you could use at home. And we used to sell them, and it used to sell. So people started asking me, oh, why don't you have anything that goes with it? So if we had this carved table, people would be like, but I need a sofa.
Right.
People would be like, I need a proper table. So I thought, okay, and we started by having people, we used to commission people to do this, but I was struggling a bit with the quality and the finish. So I thought I wanted more control. So I said, okay, I'll make furniture. So I opened a furniture factory.
Right.
And then once I was trying to open the factory, I realized that, oh, I can make all these beautiful artistic pieces, but if I wanted to have all the proper machines to be able to do this properly, I needed to do something else that was more commercial.
Yes.
So we had two sections in my factory. One that created beautiful objects, and one that did more commercial things like doors, joinery, basic furniture. So I have two sections in my factory. And that way, that's how I started my business as this creative person, but also business person.
Yes.
And I still have my factory, and we still do exactly the same thing.
The challenge for luxury brands in this environment is to successfully navigate market volatility, driven by currency swings and fluctuating tourist flows. Being the first to market with a bold concept will always attract a lot of naysayers. At what point did you have the love for luxury fashion? Because we've covered the furniture,
yes,
the lawyer,
yes.
You've also gone into the creative. But in terms of the luxury fashion label, when did you venture into that?
It was part of the journey. I think even when I was a lawyer, I used to travel.
Okay.
I used to meet a lot of people. I had a taste for the finer things. I have this saying that I'm kind of cursed. It's actually a curse when you have good taste, or you have a taste for beautiful things, and you want to. If you either aspire to collect or you aspire to create. When you have a taste for that, or when you've been exposed to it. I had the taste to create, and I love beautiful things, and I see beautiful things around me all the time, every day. I did as a kid, and I still do as an adult. There's not enough beautiful things to discover. So that's, just this, the love for beauty moved me into wanting to be part of a luxury world.
So in terms of the luxury fashion label,
yes,
was that something that you actually created and sold pieces?
Yes.
Or was that similar to the Alara concept?
No, I created it. So it was made to measure.
Okay.
And I created it. I ran it. I sort of, it was a thing for me at the time.
Right. And it was very African influenced, or was that a more Western?
No, it was as African influenced as we all live now, and as we all have lived. We can't divorce ourselves from that. It was influenced.
So, I understand the fashion.
Yes.
We've got the furniture, we have the arts.
Yes.
And at what point did you manage to combine all these things to create the first ever luxury concept store in Africa?
Like I said, my journey was leading me somewhere.
Yes.
And I thought that all my experiences were for a reason. And when I started to venture outside Nigeria and go to the different African countries, I realized that there was, as I said, so much beauty. I also realized that there was an underappreciation of that beauty. And I felt very strongly that it was because people didn't know. And that if they knew and they were exposed to it, it would be something that they would love and have high regard for. So I thought that, okay, let me put everybody together under one roof and let me see how fabulous we can be.
When you define the concept of Alara, is there any particular meaning behind the word Alara, first of all?
Yes. Alara means one who, a performer, the wondrous performer,
right.
One who thrills endlessly.
Right, very nice. And when you originally envisioned Alara, what was the goal? What was the actual mission in terms of the impact you were looking at making on the African landscape?
That's a very big question, and I will try and shorten it and make it quite concise. for me, the overriding factor was one of consciousness and self-determination. And I don't want that to sound complicated. What it was that to enable us to see who we are, appreciate who we are, and also enable the world to see who we are and appreciate who we are. That's why I said it was a moment of self-determination, that to be able to create objects of beauty that people will have value for and pay for, we needed to be doing something excellent. And to be in a space like Alara, it was proof that, if you had something in Alara, it was proof that we had people who could create things of beauty and value and would be bought by anyone in the world. So it was important that we had African stuff as well as international stuff, so that we could feel that we were in a space where you would come in and appreciate all these luxury items, regardless of whether it was African or international. So it was self-consciousness, being more self-conscious, more proud, and having the desire to determine how the world sees us.
Now, the concept of an African luxury store seems quite straightforward, but it's actually not. It's something that never existed before until you built Alara. Yes. From the inception, from the vision, to actually creating this amazing building.
Yes.
What were some of the responses that you got when you used to share with people your ideas and your vision? How did people respond to it?
I mean, it was mixed. I think most people were super excited. They thought it was anything new, and sort of it sounded really romantic, and it sounded, very patriotic. And I think a lot of people were excited by that. But I think people didn't really understand the scale or the depth of it.
Because it's huge.
I don't think even I understood the scale or the depth of it. But I think the more I started, the more encouragement that I got from everywhere. I mean, it's been a super exciting journey. Also because of how I've been supported.
Right.
I think even people that were not sure of exactly what it was going to be were like super excited and super supportive, and like, yes, what can we do? Anywhere I went, it was, what can we do? What can we do to help? This sounds exciting. What can we do to help? So I had a lot of help with people who were like, it's about time. And I think it's a very galvanizing concept. It's a concept that makes people feel a certain togetherness. So a lot of people, if I went to South Africa, whether I went to other parts of West Africa, whether I went to the States, you found a lot of Africans they felt that it had something to galvanize them. And because it hadn't been done before anywhere, it felt like people, they would have a foothold. Yes. It would show how far that they have come. And so, yes, I had a tremendous amount of support from everyone.
What I like about the story is you have a very strong contrast between African fashion,
yes,
and homegrown labels and designers,
yes,
and even the sculptures and
yes,
artistic pieces that are around.
Yes.
But then you also have the Western influence.
Yes.
Was there any particular reason why you decided to infuse both elements under one roof?
Yeah, I think it's important because it's the way we actually live now.
Okay.
It's who we are. We walk the streets, you see people, we do combine both quite beautifully. I felt it was important that way to show the world that this is who we are. We are an urban city in Lagos, and we do live like any other people in any other urban city. But also, I felt that luxury is, there are a lot of designers who epitomize luxury. And I felt that we needed them to help us to really understand what luxury is. Because previously there's been no way to differentiate one beautiful product from another. You understand? So it could be beautiful but not luxurious. And I thought that if we had something that would guide people, so if we have Valentino in the store, and you have budding designers that wanted to be great and do luxury stuff, and they see Valentino, they know what to measure, actually physically know what to measure their growth and their aspirations with. So it was important for us to have both.
Folawiyo was resolute in her stance for quality, and with every challenge, employed her tunnel vision to turn her dream into reality. She believes in empowering Nigerians to strive to achieve their inner greatness and leave a positive impact in the lives of its citizens. What would you say was your personal challenge in this whole design? I know you said you had a lot of people supporting you. A lot of people will see this and think, oh, it was that easy. She just got it. Everyone came together. And in reality, what was the struggles? What was the difficulty that you faced when you did create this?
I mean, I think I was super ambitious. I think I was my greatest problem.
Okay.
In the sense that I have a huge vision, huge passion, and huge ambition. And it's often very difficult to find people around you that have the same level of that. So I always seemed a bit extra to everyone. I wanted to do this, I wanted to do this, and I knew it was possible. So galvanizing people to be on the same sort of level of enthusiasm and ability was a little bit challenging. But I saw it all, I could see it. Just also transferring that to people and having personnel to help me to galvanize my ambition and my vision was a little bit of a challenge.
When you look at the Nigerian fashion industry,
Yes.
what would you say are the challenges that are being faced in the luxury retail sector?
I think mostly it's production and patronage. That's mostly what I would say. I think that we have really great designers. I think that in terms of taking from concept to a finished product, the journey, infrastructure actually is a big issue. The journey is a little bit not developed. It's not we don't have a developed infrastructure to help a designer go from concept to product, seamlessly. So I think that's the main problem.
What was the most difficult obstacle you had to overcome as a female entrepreneur trying to build this vision, this big vision that you have in a landscape that is predominantly dominated by men?
I think fashion, arts, that kind of thing appears soft to a lot of people and to men especially, or in the business world. So being able to convince people that it was a worthy business proposition coming from this woman who's petite and has a very sort of creative vision was difficult. People believe men and they also believe in certain types of businesses. And my business was not anything like that. So being able to convince them that it was worth listening to me about, anything that I wanted to say in terms of, looking for assistance and stuff like that was, it was challenging. That was challenging as a woman.
How was you able to overcome it?
Being dogged, and also being dogged and giving a lot of information, and everything that you do today, be it man or woman, the only way that you can get people to actually support you is when you have something that nobody else has. Or you're doing something new, you're innovating, you're doing something new, and convincing them that that is the future. But if I was just going to do a mom and pop shop and just open a few doors here and, then nobody would have believed me. I needed to be out there to make them understand that the creative world is a future for us. It's where it starts. I mean, we talk about finance, we talk about banking, but at the end of the day, we cannot develop without the creative group. And also proving to them with numbers. I mean, if you look at my business, we have various streams. We have art, we have fashion, we have design, we have food, we have events. By the time you look at the way we have creatively managed the business part of it, you realize that this is something different and this actually could work. So I think, just convincing people and having a certain degree of innovation, something different, would push people a little bit more out of their comfort zone.
So what started off as an African luxury concept store then expanded, and
Yes.
you had Knock by Alara, which is your delicious restaurant.
Thank you.
But what is next in the Alara and Knock brand? What is the next stage for you?
Well, we have a few nexts. For Knock, we have outdoor catering. We have what we call the Knock truck, which is going to be all over Lagos. We have also, we're working on a business plan for NOC in different parts of the world. We want somewhere in Europe, we want somewhere in Africa, and we want another NOC somewhere in Nigeria. So that's long term. But yes, that's NOC for the next 5 years.
Right.
For Alara, of course, it's a concept that we created to travel. I think Alara can be anywhere in the world. Alara could be in New York, it could be in Johannesburg, it could be anywhere. Of course, that is a lot determined by funds, and at the moment it's a little bit shaky in the retail world. So that's, but originally our concept was Alara, the concept store, and then Alara, the boutique hotel, which is supposed to be next door. And this was the original concept. But it looks like NOC has become the one that was going to travel first. And so we're going to do NOC first and then move on to Alara. But more specifically for Alara now, we have opened the store. We've done, we are establishing our brand. The most important thing, which is the most important thing to me, is what we call the Heritage Project, which is the creation of our own unique luxury objects, which spans objects for your home, fashion, that we have done with a collaboration of designers and artisans and created something that's specifically African luxury, that in our own interpretation and production. That is the next thing for Alara and for me, because it's super important for me to do that. And yeah.
And what more can we expect from you personally, Reni? I know you said that you're planning on developing African luxury products now that are your own brand.
Yes.
Would that be the next step for you as well individually, or?
Well, I think that would be the next step for Alara. But for me personally, it is important. I've done a lot of the work, and I think I need to soften up a bit and do something that's related to women. So a lot of what we want to do with the Heritage Project will blend. It will be done by women to start. I think it's important for me now to put my money where my mouth is and drive the empowerment of women in particular. And so a lot of, with the research we're doing now, is to get skills, to establish which skills that women already do in different parts of Africa and see what we can do with that in terms of fulfilling our sort of ambition to create luxury objects for Alara.
You're obviously a very successful woman, but you also have a very thriving marriage. So the question I have to ask, can a woman really have it all then?
Well, of course, why not? We're women. We are to rule the world. We're super. We have great coping skills, and we have the power. Sometimes we don't know our own power. Sometimes we don't use it, and sometimes we don't know it. Sometimes, because of society sort of saying, oh, this is the place of the woman, we believe it. But by the time you get to my age, you realize that you own your own power, and you're able to chart your own course by believing in yourself and believing that you're able to do it. I mean, I am also very lucky to have a really, really understanding and super supportive husband. But yeah, we are different in the sense that he's a man, he has everything the way he wants it. And a woman is a little bit more of a struggle, so maybe I kind of fight a little bit more. But I think it's all, and it's very important to realize that what we do in life is really about us. It's not, my husband's a great partner and a great friend, but he doesn't deprive me of being who I am. Mm-hmm. And I am not afraid to show who I am. And I think that if we can overcome the fear that, oh, if I do this, maybe I'll lose the man. If I do this, maybe I'll do that. The point is that if you're going to lose a man for being yourself, then he was never yours. And I think that it's important to see that we come to this world for ourselves and to find someone who loves us for who we are and will support us and enable us to thrive. If that becomes too difficult, then maybe the relationship is not for us. I think that's what I think. Mm-hmm. But I feel very lucky to be able to do what I do every day, to have a loving marriage, to be able to leave and go back to, I believe I'm very lucky. I believe I'm very lucky to be able to do this at all. Literally, to be able to wake up one day and say, this is what I want to do, and be able to go 1 to 10 and have done it. Like every day, literally. And, looking at Alara and, I feel very lucky and very blessed. But I think that I hope this can enable women believe in themselves. And, even if people say, oh, maybe we don't know what she's doing, if you're determined and you're hardworking, you can rule the world. We can rule the world.
Adversity is inevitable, but difficulties or misfortunes don't have to keep you from achieving your intended goals and finding that happiness you seek in business and life. It's how you overcome these adversities that make all the difference. And that is what the story of Reni Folawiyo and Alara teaches us. No matter what life throws at you, you have the ability to achieve and rise against the odds.
I get up every morning knowing I'm going to have a challenge, but also knowing that I am well placed to deal with it in my mind.